This is Inside the BFA, the official podcast of the Balloon Federation of America. Each episode of Inside the BFA is an open discussion of the many aspects of the sport of ballooning and the BFA's work to represent its members and the ballooning community at large. Now, here's your host, editor of the BFA's Ballooning Journal, Glenn Moyer.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Inside the BFA. I'm Glenn Moyer, the BFA's Ballooning Journal editor. Good to have you with us again this evening. Tonight is a very special edition of this podcast. It is going to be an open forum with the board of directors. Your opportunity to ask questions of the board. Anything and everything essentially is on the table. I'll be monitoring comments in the section on the screen that you're monitoring. So if you have questions, please post them in the comments area. We'll try to get to as many of those as we can. We do have some prepared remarks and plans for our agenda tonight, but your questions are really what this meeting is all about this evening. So I wanted to bring you up to speed on that. We do have some new developing, as they'll say, breaking news that we'll be discussing with you. But to get us started tonight, let me welcome in, first of all, the president of the Balloon Federation of America, Mr. Jason Jones, and I think he has some opening remarks for us about tonight's meeting. Jason, good evening.
Good evening, Glenn. Hey, I'm very excited about tonight. You know, we a year ago set out an initiative to make sure we were better communicators. If you remember, we did a survey, and that was one of the things that membership told us is we needed to share more. So we're going to talk about other ways we're trying to share information with our membership and other balloonists in general. But obviously this podcast, that this is episode 7, I believe, is set up to provide that communication. And if you are going to ask questions, remember that you need to be logged into YouTube to make that happen so Glenn can see those questions to get to the board. So thanks, Glenn. Excited about this.
Thanks, Jason. And Jason will be back to talk with us more a bit later into the program. We're going to get started tonight with one of the newest initiatives the BFA has undertaken. The FAA recently reproduced an updated airspace card, which I have here. I think we also have a graphic maybe Fred can bring up on the screen for you. This is the card that we're all familiar with that describes, there it is, the various classes of airspace. You'll notice the pink area now addresses airspace reserved or at least set aside for drone operations. There is a lot of news in the field of drone operations, even as we come on the air with this edition of the podcast. Specifically, the FAA has reopened the comment period for the NPRM on the NPRM for normalizing, this is the long title, normalizing unmanned aircraft systems beyond visual line of sight operations. But it's only for comments on 2 things, and that is the electronic that's a hard word, electronic conspicuity, yeah, that word, and for right of way. Help me here, Pat. I'm going to bring on Pat Cannon and also Dave Sullivan to tell us and bring us up to speed on what's happening with that. And also this new comment period, which, by the way, is only open for 8 days. It's only open until February the 11th. So I'm not going to do it again. Pat, please take it away. Save me.
All right. Well, I can't say it either, Glenn. The honest truth is, that is a hard word to say, and I'll tell you, it has been a free for all out here. There were over 1 million comments received by the FAA, about 1,050,000, as I understand, on the drone issue. That represents a very large percentage of the number of pilots out there, and along with our partners that we've been working with. In industry partners, which represent most of the 3 and 4 letter groups that are around the country that represent aviation, we are back at it again, and we're talking about these 8 questions that were given to us to answer. And I'm going to turn this over to Dave in just a second because he's the techie here and he understands this stuff, and he'll explain a little bit more about the side of it. But first, I want to thank all of you that did respond. We did have an impact. We were mentioned in a major industry magazine as having been at the forefront of this fight against giving the drones the right of way, and this is the big deal. right now is the right of way. And I think that FAA may be rethinking it, and that may be why we've got these 8 questions that we need to deal with. They're asking for an acceleration in this process. I think the 8 days is really representative of asking most of the industry groups and partners to come together and to coin some additional explanation to them about what we feel and how we feel about these EC devices and what we think the future of that is. And for that, I'm going to turn that over to Dave.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you again. As Pat said, this is more of an industry-focused query than it was to the general public. If those of you who have gone out and located the document, the 7 or 8 very specific questions have to deal with the device that they have sort of outlined within Part 108.195, the proposed 108.195. Interestingly enough, Pat and I have already had 2 AOPA meetings about this. Very interesting conversation today. We're still trying to figure out exactly what the FAA is asking, because the questions themselves are rather vague in a couple of respects. They're looking for certain things that we aren't quite sure what the definitions are going to be yet. There are those that want to make this a very complex issue. I'm more of a keep it simple kind of guy. And I think that might be where we go somewhere in the future. But the questions are there. I have received several inquiries about, do I respond to this? And the one thing I'll say about it, if you want to respond, that's fine. But this is focused more towards the technical side of this NPRM than it is the general side. These questions don't really deal with the right-of-way issue as much as they do defining the electronic conspicuity, and that's how it's pronounced, Glenn.
Thank you.
My pleasure, sir. The conspicuity side of the issue, as opposed to the absolute right-of-way under 91.113. It's still being defined. They have met no deadlines so far. There were several deadlines set out in the original executive order that pushed all of this. There was a deadline that hit 2 days ago for the final rule. We're 72 hours past that. Right now, best expectation of a final rule is probably late April, early May. So there's still a lot of time for this to work out. If you want to respond to the NPRM, go right ahead, but there's no huge push to do so.
Okay. That was going to be a question I had was, in this instance, would the BFA, as we did previously, be drafting a statement and publishing it for the members? I know that would have to happen very quickly. I get from the 2 of you, this is really more for industry response, not general public response.
I think that's a good perception, Glenn. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Glenn, I'd like to add one thing, and that is that we have been working with some of the drone companies, and they have been very proactive. Some of them have been with the BFA, and they've contacted us, and they've contacted others in their local areas to get some picture of the type of flying areas that we have. Launch areas, or primary launch areas in particular, for those commercial operations that have favorite places where they depart from. They're going to mark those as off limits. In fact, we have the drone companies are joining us in South Carolina or in the Carolinas for the event that's going to happen out there in a few weeks. So we're going to have a presence of the drone companies, and they'll be available for questions and answers just like we will.
Okay. Very good. Thank you guys for that update. And no offense, Dave, but I think when Pat calls you a techie, he's really saying you're our resident nerd. So
I'm a long way from that, but I appreciate the boost.
Well, there you go. I am going to interrupt our normal flow, or at least our planned agenda, as I see questions come in that we want to address. And in many cases, I may not necessarily know who on the board wants to jump in on this, but William Nelson is saying that he has a concern about events with negative forecasts. I'm not sure his meaning there, where they're accepting money for entry and deposits for rides that clearly are not going to happen. We know there have been promoters in the sport that have put on, or how should I say it, have promoted events that probably are not actually ever going to happen. And we've seen some of that taking place. Anyone, we have virtually the entire board with us tonight online. They're sitting in the green room off stage. We can bring them on and off as we need to. The only 2 that are not with us tonight is Penny Suttle, who is away, and Troy Bradley is not with us tonight. So anyone on the board wish to address that? I guess give Fred a high sign and we can bring you on. Any comments about events that are perhaps not entirely legitimate, I guess, might be the best way to ask that.
Hey, Glenn.
Okay, Jason.
You hope that organizers obviously are up and up on what's going on. And I think what William is talking about maybe is the idea that, we get with the varying weather patterns that we've had as of late, that maybe we get these situations where the weather has shown us the event's not going to happen and the money's still collected. And as an organization, we, of course, would discourage that, but it's also not really something that we're very easily able to control. An organizer who, especially some of these events that have been around for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, they continue to try to make that event happen in some fashion, even when the weather isn't very positive. Maybe get in one of their glows or, some kind of static displays, right as the sun comes up or the sun's going down. So, and William, if we're missing the boat on your answer here, please let us know. But I understand what you're saying, and it's frustrating to drive 3 or 4 hours and then have an event not happen when you knew it wasn't going to happen before you left your house.
I can recall a story of years ago that I won't mention names, but a balloonist I had great respect for, still have great respect for, though he's no longer with us. Knew that an event wasn't going to happen because of weather, but he had to show up. And so he showed up pulling an empty trailer. There was no balloon in the trailer. And he's told the story, thank goodness the weather proved to be what he thought it was going to be, because that way no one knew he was there without his balloon. But that's a whole nother war story. It's convenient we have you back with us, Jason, because you were next on my agenda. I wanted to talk a bit about, again, one of the, this isn't a brand new initiative, but it's something that the BFA has been trying to expand on, and that is our relationship with regional and local clubs. I know you have instituted a program where we're sending out regular updates to the clubs, trying to get them involved. And one question that did come into me earlier was, how is the BFA going to build value in that partnership so that it's of value to the BFA and also to the regional or local club to become partners and to work together? So talk a bit about that, if you would.
Sure. So one thing we started doing last year was we started to send a monthly club email. And one of the things we found out as we started doing this is that and we've had wonderful people working for us on clubs. Nancy Griffin has spent years and years helping us. But what we found, and Nancy would agree with us on this, is, presidents and editors of newsletters change so frequently, yearly sometimes with some clubs, that it's hard to keep track of where those emails should go. So if you're not getting the club email in your club, please let us know. We've asked presidents and editors to take those and put them in the newsletter or blast them out to their email lists. We want you to know what we're trying to do and what we're doing on in various areas of ballooning. I think, Glenn, probably, and somebody else may answer some of this later, but one of the other things that we really try to help promote are the safety seminars with the local clubs and organizations. And the card that Glenn showed you, we're going to try to make, I maybe shouldn't say this out loud, we're going to try to make that available for some of these safety seminars and whatnot. So
no, I actually meant to say that and forgot. So thank you, Jason. We got 2,000 of those printed. We're going to be having them available for distribution to the seminars, as you're saying. And I think we're even going to put a copy, if your membership includes a hard copy of the magazine, you'll be getting a copy there. So
right.
Yes. Thanks for reminding me. I'd forgotten that entirely.
Yeah. And one of the things that we got in the survey was that we had BFA not publications, our publications, our magazine, but printouts and different things that we used to send to the safety seminars, and we'd kind of gotten away from that. And so we were trying to slowly bring that back in as budgets will allow. So hopefully they'll be getting those cards, there'll be value in that.
Thanks, Jason. And especially again for reminding me about the card. I wanted to make sure we announced that was coming up. So well done, you. One of our major outreaches, of course, is our website, www.bfa.net. There is an awful lot of it's an ongoing work in progress. There's always something being redeveloped or are newly developed and additions coming on board. Our Vice President, Larry Simberger, has been basically overseeing the website and new developments there. So, Larry, let me bring you on board, and if you would, bring us up to speed on what are some of the new things that are being added to the website. I know there's a lot of new information that we're pushing out there in relation to the survey that Jason's been talking about, things we learned from the membership there. So bring us up to speed on what's happening with BFA.net.
Well, thank you, Glenn. I'd like to provide some numbers so people kind of know what our viewership is like on the website. On our 30-day snapshot, we had 2,300 visits in January. Things I try to monitor is if we have any new bugs. Right now, we don't have any new issues. We have a few old issues, unfortunately. The top pages people tend to visit are the homepage. There's a lot of information on that homepage. It links to other things. And the events calendar. So that tells me we need to spend a little bit more energy on keeping that events calendar up. I looked and we don't have all of our safety seminar information loaded in that calendar yet, so we need to do that. And I just like to remind folks that's all done by volunteers. They spend hours logging this information in. The next one I think you'll be proud of, Glenn, it's the Digital Bloom magazine. Yes, so you can see that online and you can actually search and find keywords in those PDF magazines. The membership rosters next and hot air competition. So kind of the things you would expect. And it's somewhat seasonal. As we get closer to safety seminars, those videos will be more prevalent. So it varies over the season, but that's the kind of the top pages. If we have a very interesting advocacy article, that will immediately go to the top.
Well, expand on that a little bit about the advocacy page, because that's relatively new. That was something I think you brought on board to the website, if I recall.
Yeah, so I think Fred's in the background. He's going to pull that up. Thank you, Fred. And so Fred and I really been teaming together in a couple things. I believe in these surveys, so as well as Fred. And our feedback was we're not communicating enough. And Fred took on this podcast. I think he's doing a great job, along with you, Glenn. So I'm very proud of this as being one of those things we're trying to deliver from those survey results. The other thing was I noticed that a lot of our advocacy communication from our call to action team was getting buried. You know, they tried their best to send it out through the magazine, through the quick release, through the website, through Facebook, and there wasn't one clearinghouse for it. And so I built this blog so that people could go in and query it and go back and look at it. And I think our highest visited site was the final results of the Eloy accident. Another one was this recent Part 108 ruling. We had over 1,000 visits to that call to action to have comments on it. So I hope people are finding it helpful. I know when our social media group links to these pages, there's a lot of visits. So I hope our next survey results will show that we're making some progress on communicating with our membership. We do have some broken features, so I want to acknowledge those because I'm not ignoring them. It just takes time to fix these things. The membership renewal can be improved, and right now it requires you to make multiple purchases, and we need to fix that. We need to make it so that you can put all your primary purchase and your add-ons for, you know, if it's gas or competition, whatever your add-ons, you can just make one purchase. So that's on our radar this year to get fixed. I feel bad that it's taken this long to kind of bubble up to get that priority. The other one we'd like to improve is the continuing education safety seminar sign up, and that can be streamlined. In the meantime, we do have some features in development. And so the first one I'd like to mention is another item I partnered with Fred Poole. is something that we're calling Blue Sky Memorials. And as we're aging in our ballooning community, a lot of our favorite pilots and crew people and event organizers and like that are leaving us. And we thought it'd be a great way to create a memorial for them so that people can read and comment and share memories. And so we're pretty close to getting that in a testing round. So our board members will test it, and we'll populate some data in there. And I was warned that, a lot of people like to troll our social media and our website. So we may do some features in it that will help prevent that. Because we take this seriously. The other thing I really am looking forward to getting implemented, and Jason talked about it, is a photo album for the model ballooning community. The model ballooning community is growing. Hopefully we'll hear a little bit more about that. And they're trying to self-organize into a special interest group, and hopefully they can become a division one day. But they are really proud of their balloons. Sometimes they built them their own selves, and they'd like to show pictures of them. And so I'm building a photo album for them, and hopefully we'll get that installed not too far from now. And just a quick mention, our social media, we have 13,000 followers on Facebook, over 2,500 on Instagram, and then over 250 subscribers to our YouTube channel. And we had almost no subscribers before these podcasts. So these podcasts really represent the interest in subscribing to our YouTube channel.
Now we just need to get those 13,000 to become BFA members.
Oh, that would be wonderful, wouldn't it? Well, we can talk a little bit about membership. We if you look at our website, it's kind of open source. We don't really have too many things behind a firewall. And so, so people get a lot of things for free, and that's fine because they can get a lot of those resources elsewhere. So we've kind of kept the website open source, but we really are hoping that we can continue bringing products and services or memberships that they know and understand that being a member helps support this and helps fund this, because you'd be surprised how few volunteers really make all this work. And we need to reach out and get a few more volunteers besides membership. So
if you've ever had a question of, how can I help the BFA, then the thing to do is to simply get in touch with a director and ask, what can I do to help? Because you're absolutely right, Larry. It's surprising sometimes how few volunteers actually make what we do happen. It's very much a member organization, but a lot of times there's a very few people serving an awful lot of people. I'm excited to hear about the Blue Sky Memorial thing, because that's been a subject in my almost 30 years experience, either being on the board or in my role now as editor working with the board. That's been a constant issue, is how do we honor those who have passed on? And as you touched on in the description, as our sport has begun to set to especially gray in the last, say, 10 years or so, more and more people unfortunately are leaving us, and we just don't have the space in the magazine to do an obituary feature, memoriam, whatever, for every balloonist who passes on. So we have to have we have sort of a strict rule of who can get in there and who can't, but we don't want to ignore the many others who are certainly standouts and worthy of remembrance. So I'm excited to see that's finally going to come along and come together on the website. Any idea how soon we might see that? I don't want to put any pressure on you.
Well, I did the first initial test cycle, and I found some fatal errors, and I haven't heard back on when I can see the results from those fixes yet. So, and I'm trying to keep our costs down on this too.
Sure.
But my goal, I'd like to see it within 2 months.
Okay.
Hey, Glenn, I see a question from Barb. She's asking about
You made the
trolling.
comment about trolling actions on the memorial, and I think she's asking, what do you think of? What are you referring to when you say trolling actions?
Yeah, so I added a feature onto the website called feedback. It's almost on all the pages. It's at the bottom, and so that's for people to give us feedback if they like the page. Occasionally I get that, not enough, but sometimes somebody finds a bug or an error, and then somebody sometimes just has nonsense, or it looks like bots are submitting on those feedback forms. And so I have to screen some of that out and try to troubleshoot that. Sometimes it's just simple as that people forget to log in. Some of our features don't work if you're not logged in as a member. So,
Okay.
but anyway, hopefully that helps.
And speaking of logging in, if you're watching the program tonight, you have to be logged in on YouTube if you want to ask questions. I am monitoring the questions, as Larry just saw that Barb had asked. And so, but if you want to pose a question, you do have to be logged in or we won't see the question. So just wanted to reiterate that as we move on this evening. Thank you, Larry. We'll get back to you, I think, on some other subjects, time allowing, as we move on. I wanted to move on to perhaps the youngest gentleman he is the youngest gentleman on the board now, and I think may be the youngest person ever to serve on the board in my 30 years or so, 40 years association with the BFA, and that's Blake Aldridge, who is our Southwest Regional Director. I don't know if you saw it, but Blake recently authored what I thought was an excellent editorial in the Quick Release about young people and the youth movement and bringing the next generation into the BFA. And that's been a subject, as we are concerned with the graying of the sport. And I'm not going to get into the difference, Blake, at your age and mine, but I was in ballooning and knew your mom and dad before they were your mom and dad. So I'm definitely the old school generation and you're the next generation. But I wanted you specifically to talk a little bit about, as one of the younger generation, the next generation of balloonists, why you feel it's important to be a member of the BFA, why you've chosen to get involved at this level, at the board level of the BFA, and what do you think the organization can and should be doing to better serve your generation, and why, again, should your generation be a part of this organization? So I'm going to turn the floor over to you for a short bit on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think based on what Larry said, I think that we all can realize that the sport is graying and the youth population is not growing how we need it to. Now, the good thing is it's still there, right? I mean, obviously I'm here. And
I'm here still.
Yeah, you're still here. And I think that we're in a really unique position where the BFA specifically has the resources, the people, and the power to actually make a difference and bring new people into the sport. And I do think that, as a community, as a BFA, we have been doing that. I think the camps are a good thing. I do think they help. I do think they bring new people in, right? And I do think that the HACD competition is under the BFA, the Young Guns, like I posted in my article in Longview. I think that is a really good effort. I'm meeting new people every single year that I didn't even know were pilots, right? It's getting them into competition, and growing that community. And I think that where we are right now, and one of the reasons I joined is because I think we're at a point now where we need to take those ideas and really expand on them, right? I think that more programs, BFA sponsored programs like Young Guns across the country at events, at big events, small events, just, hey, take 1 or 2, 3 new pilots. But even going further than that, right? Just selling the lifestyle, just promotion, using the members that we have, using the resources that we have to just really hammer in on the youth. And it, don't want to sound like that isn't what's been happening before I got here, right? But I do think it's important to have someone that's in that group in a position on the board of directors that can really, keep pushing for that. We have been pushing for that, but, I really want to make my one of my big efforts here being on the board of directors to be pushing for the youth to expand those programs, to expand the population of not just young pilots, but just pilots, crew, officials, scoring officials, fans, just everything, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean that's the main reason I joined, right? It's because the framework is there, the people, the experience. I mean, I think the board of directors, I think I was looking at it, it's over 100 years of flying experience at least. So there's a lot of knowledge to be had, and I think if we can just pull out that knowledge and just pair it with a drive to bring more young people in the sport, I think we can do it. And so I'm excited for what the future holds.
To be fair, Young Guns was the product of Dr. Bill Bussey, your mentor and one of my mentors for many years.
For sure.
But it has become a part. I know the GTBR, the Great Texas Race, rolled it into the National Balloon Championships when they hosted the Nationals, and it actually served as I think a qualifier for the Junior Nationals here in the U.S. And that's a program I know that you've come up through and have a great passion for. I'm guessing you would like to see Young Guns or some similar sort of competition encouraging younger pilots to expand beyond just the Great Texas Race and see something like that happen in other events around the country.
For sure. No, I think it's a great program. I mean, this year alone, obviously me and a lot of other young pilots, we moved up to nationals, right? So that left a lot of spots in Young Guns, and I didn't know who was going to fill it. I don't know enough young people, or I thought I didn't, but it got full, and there were young new pilots and it was really cool to see and to meet those people. And I think that especially in communities like a Battle Creek, like in Indianola, right? I think that those programs could thrive. And Sam Parks and I even talked about expanding the Young Guns type program to officials and scoring officials for this year.
Yeah.
So I mean, what's really exciting is that the framework and the ideas are already there. That's the hard part in my opinion, right? Dr. Bussey did the hard work with thinking of Young Guns and the qualifiers and kind of the criteria of how to do it. And now the easy part is expanding on that, whether that be in Longview to do officials, or that be expanding Young Guns and renaming it to other events across the country. But yeah, I do think that it's some, and I'm a little biased, obviously, but I do think it's a really good idea. And I think even something like that, just focusing on it, we can do some good.
Well, on behalf of myself and the old school folks, thank you for your passion for ballooning and for your desire to be a part of the organization and to get involved, not just be a part, but to get involved and make things happen. And knowing your family heritage, I know that that'll get done. I knew your dad for a long, long time, and your mom as well. And both of them are the type of people who get things done. And I know that will carry through with you. So we're thrilled to have you on the board and look forward to continuing to work with you and bring more and more of the next generation on board. So, and thanks for being here tonight, and thanks for that. If you haven't read Blake's editorial in the quick release, go back and read it. I plan to republish it in the coming issue of the magazine as well, Ballooning Journal, so you'll get a chance to see it there. It's well worth reading. We are in the early stages of 2026. This is only very early February, of course, February 3rd, as we record this. And that means that typically across the country, we're in what's known as safety seminar season. Not the biggest flying season for most of us now that winter has set in. And oh my gosh, the recent ice megathon we had was pretty incredible. But with safety seminars, I want to bring on Alyssa Talbert as our secretary and a director at large to talk a bit about the regional safety seminars, how the BFA is involved with them, and Alyssa, perhaps even the upcoming the annual online BFA safety seminar. So bring us up to speed on where we are with those initiatives right now.
Thank you, Glenn. Well, I think we can all agree safety's paramount to our sport. And an important part of this is creating the culture of safety. The BFA recognizes the importance of safety seminars in creating that culture, and we want to obviously encourage our pilots, crew members to attend their local and regional events. Traditionally, the BFA has offered a complimentary digital membership to those sanctioned events for use in their drawings. But this year we wanted to do more to recognize that instruction and the valuable conversations that occur at those events. So we've increased our donation to include propane tank stickers, BFA stickers, A Life in the Air by Bruce Comstock, Hot Air Balloon Ground School by Katie Griggs, and pilot and crew logbooks, as well as you and Jason mentioned earlier, the airspace and possibly some of the magazines. So that's just part of what we want to do to encourage the safety seminars, to give something back to those. You know, every safety seminar has drawings, they have ways that they're trying to make a little bit of money, obviously, to be able to promote and bring the seminar speakers in. And the BFA has a list of seminar speakers also. Quite a few of our board members, Pat and Dave, and are available and go to many of the seminars to speak. So
actually, several are going to be in Des Moines for an upcoming Iowa seminar, I believe.
In March, I believe, yes.
I think, yeah, next month, I believe, yeah.
And then, so you mentioned the online safety seminar. With my recent move from Albuquerque to Virginia, I've realized how many opportunities for safety and education I took for granted for years being in Albuquerque. Being in an area with monthly meetings that included safety corners, 2 annual ground schools, multiple safety seminars. And most of our BFA pilots and crews are in the same boat as I now am in not having those opportunities within a 20-mile radius of my home. So knowing that not everyone can travel and attend those safety events in person, the BFA is partnering with a regional event. Each year we do this. We partner with a regional event and record the speakers and create an online safety seminar, which is available to all the pilots and crew members. And that should be available, I believe, in late April. So for more information on getting your seminar registered or signing up for our online seminar, visit the website, which obviously, Glenn, you've given. Reach out to Denise in the BFA office or our board member that actually is responsible for keeping the list of all of the safety seminars and making sure that we've got them all registered and they're getting their goodie bags, would be Penny Settle of the Great Lakes region.
Great. Thank you, Alyssa. And you're right. I was actually the host or the MC, I guess you could say, of the first BFA online safety seminar. We held it out in Albuquerque at the Fiesta offices. And it was, the whole concept was because there were pilots in various parts of the country like yourself who don't have an immediately available seminar to attend, and perhaps ride pilots who sometimes are working on the weekend that their regional seminar takes place and they can't attend. They still needed the opportunity to do a safety seminar. And so the idea was we could create this online seminar, not to compete with the regional clubs, because we know how important those are. And that's one reason our seminar comes late in the season. Is it's meant to be if all else fails, you could go to the BFA safety seminar and still get the seminar you need, get your insurance credits, those kinds of things. So it's exciting to hear that program is still continuing, and condolences that you're now in that situation.
Yeah, speaking of the ice and weather,
Virginia was something that you enjoyed and are enjoying.
It is,
okay.
But yeah, it's definitely a big difference. Having so many things available, multiple balloon events. I mean, you know, we had just a Saturday is 40 to 50 balloons. So it's something that you definitely take for granted being out of that.
Okay, very good. We have just a couple of minutes left. Larry Simberger earlier this evening had indicated that if we had time, he could address for us the National Balloon Museum. We all know that efforts are underway to rebuild and rejuvenate the museum after the fire. Denise Day, our office director, moved her office back into the building, even though the museum has not reopened yet. That still is probably months away as work is ongoing to repopulate the exhibits, etc. Larry, we have a couple of minutes left this evening, so if you can, maybe give us a quick update on what's happening with the museum and the BFA's role there.
Well, thank you, Glenn. Between Jason's effort and effort of others, we have Debbie Spaeth and other people supporting us on their board of directors. And we really reconnected with that board and really making progress on some partnership If you go to Facebook and find National Balloon Museum, you'll see that they're reposting some of our posts. They promote our podcast tonight, so they shared that out, and we're looking at doing more partnering things with them. We were able to help them get some artifacts from Matt Whitaker's estate, and through that, they received a $25,000 donation from his estate. And so we're really excited about partnering with them on some of these things. Just to give you a little bit more update on that, they have the facility pretty much all cleaned up, and they're bringing these artifacts back. Some of them been cleaned, and some of them have not been cleaned as well as they thought they were, and so they're having to go back and clean some of these things. And as you can imagine, it's soot and things like that. And they've had some fun discoveries and drop line bags and things like that, that as they found some artifacts they didn't know they had. So and so they're trying to bring all this back, and if you watch their Facebook page, ever so often they'll send out a help needed notice because they're staging some equipment or some of this artifacts that come back into the museum. And so they don't really have a hard date. They got some goals, of course, and so we're really excited about helping them and reestablish our relationship with them. And so far, it's going really good. We have some of our members looking at, I'll do a shout out to a couple of people. Gordon Hall is looking at donating some of his artifacts.
Oh, yeah.
Gordon was involved with some very early ballooning in the movie industry, and so he has some very interesting artifacts. And I know the Winker family is looking at some of their artifacts as well. So it's going to be exciting to see them reopen and get and be available for us to come visit them.
Very good. Thank you, Larry. And yeah, Jack Dalton just mentioned that they had a work weekend at the museum just last weekend. A lot of volunteers showed up to help with the cleaning of some of those exhibits and moving things in. So that work is ongoing, and the BFA is certainly playing a role in that. And we look forward to a long partnership, continued partnership with the museum. And to answer your question, Barb, we have a whole host of planned topics coming up for future episodes of this podcast. And indeed, there may be opportunities for us to have some rank and file BFA members be a part of the show to get their perspective on exactly how the BFA is doing and representing them and things we should be working on in the sport. And anytime that you have a suggestion for subjects that you would like to have us discuss on this podcast and potentially be a guest, if you're expert in that field or whatever, reach out to myself, to our producer Fred Poole, who, by the way, is here. He's the board treasurer. He's the director of the show, so he's pushing all the buttons behind the scenes. And I should mention too that I don't know if he wants to say anything, but Bruce Byberg is with us. He's been dealing with a family member with some health issues and really didn't have a role to play tonight other than to be here and support us as a member of the board, but he is here, and thank you for taking the time to do that. Oh, that's Ken Walter, says Jack Dalton's dad, and says, "This is me, Ken Walter." Hi, Ken. I didn't know that. So thank you, Ken, for that. Yeah, Larry, go ahead. You have something else?
Yeah, well, Ken's been really one of the key members of the board that's really helped us reinvigorate that relationship with the BFA. So thank you, Ken.
Yeah, and Ken's a previous member of this board of directors, and he and I have been buddies for a long, long time. So thank you, Ken, and thanks for letting me know that was you. I don't always recognize screen names if they're not somebody's real name. Unfortunately, that's really all the time we have tonight. We're going to wrap things up. I want to thank all of the members of the board. What a rare opportunity this was to have virtually the entire board with us tonight to answer your questions. Not as many as we had hoped, but again, this is a new initiative, this podcast. It's a new way of the BFA trying to reach out to its membership to communicate, to share with you what the BFA is doing to represent you, find out what you want us to do to represent you, how better we can serve you. So by all means, reach out to any of the members of the board if you have comments or concerns, or as I said, items or thoughts about topics you'd like to have us discuss here on this podcast or address in some other way. So again, thanks to all the board members for being with us tonight. Thanks for viewing in. Remember, this podcast is archived on our YouTube channel and is available for on-demand viewing almost immediately after I sign off this evening. And so if you weren't able to see the show live, you can watch it at your convenience between now and next month's edition. Remember, we're now on the first Tuesday of every month at 6:30 p.m. Central for Inside the BFA. So on the part of everyone who is a part of this one, we want to thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate your viewing, and we will see you next time on Inside the BFA.
Thank you for viewing this episode of Inside the BFA. Membership in the Balloon Federation of America is your entry into the sport of ballooning, whether you're a pilot, crew, or an enthusiast. Everyone is welcome inside the BFA. For more information, see our website at www.bfa.net.